Hello guys, my name is Lataguta. Today I'm gonna present on the topic of database system concepts and its architecture. But if you are a newcomer to this channel, please subscribe, like, comment, and share my videos. So let me start my today's presentation. The first one is the outline of my topic or my chapter presentation has an outline. The first one is about database modeling and schema instances. The second one is about database management system architecture and the data independency. The third one is about database language. Since database have own language, we will see some database language and its interface. The fourth one is about database systems and its environments. The last one is about the classification of database management systems. Let us start with the first question. What is schema? When you say schema, what is schema? How we can define? When we say schema, a schema is a description of a particular collection of data. It means that anything which describes a particular collection of data is what we call is a schema. And also it is giving data model. It is giving data model. And also describing what description of what it is a particular collection of data. Whenever we store a lot of data in a database, the description of each data which is stored in a database is what we call is schema. And also we can say that schema is a definition of database. Any definition of database or anything which defines the database is what we call is schema, by means of the stored data in a catalog form. The means of data stored in a catalog form is also what we call is a schema. The other one is if we say any description about a particular collection of data is schema. What is database schema? To say database schema, a description of database itself is what we call is database schema. The other one is the core concept about schema is you must identify or you must specify database schema before you start to implement some kinds of action, before you take some kinds of action. It means that before starting anything, you must start to identify the specific schema for your relational database. That means specifying during database design. You can specify during the database design. As an example, a relational data model, we have the following rule of defining schema. To define the schema, we have all rules. The first one is the table name. The second one is the primary key. The third one is about the column of the relation. When we say the relation, this relation is a collection of rows. Is a collection of rows and columns. It's a collection of rows and columns. So where we put the column in case of the schema, so you must identify the first of all you must know this concept. So the table name is put outside of the parenthesis. You can put the table name outside of the parenthesis. That means table name is outside of the parenthesis. The second one is the column name is inside the parenthesis. We put the column name inside of the parenthesis. The third one is with underlining the primary key to identifying from the other column, any person or any designer of a database must underlining the primary key. Let me see this example. As you see from this example, this is a student. This student is what we call it is table name. So we put outside of the parenthesis. The second one is SID, name, age, and sex. These all 1, 2, 3, 4. All these 4 columns is put under open and closed parentheses. That means we have 4 columns. From this relational table. But how we can identify the primary key from these columns? To identify the primary key of this column, we only check the underlined one. So the underlined one is SID. So this SID is what we call is the primary key of this relational tables. The primary key of this relational table is what we call is SID. So we can specify the necessary schema during we start the design of the database. The second question is about list and explain the schema. Since the schema have own definition, since the schema have some kinds of lists, let me see some kinds of schema. List of schema. The first schema is the internal schema. When we list it, the first one is internal schema. The second one is conceptual schema. The third one is external schema. When we list the schema, we have 3 schema. The first one is internal, the second one is conceptual, the third one is external schema. The second question is about explain each listed schemas. So when we say internal schema, to describe the physical storage structure and access path. One of the main goal of internal schema is to identify what the access path. The first one is to identify the access path. The second one is to describe the physical storage one. It only focus on the physical storage. It only focus on some physical storage, and also the access path of the schema. Typically use physical data model. This is typically what we call is store some physical data. The second one is conceptual schema. When we define or when we explain the term conceptual, it describes the structure and constraints for the whole database. It is used to describe the structure. It is used to describe the constraint or the rules we will use in our database. So we can say that any description about structure of the database or any constraint we may use to store a data in a database is defined under the conceptual schema. The third one is external schema. When you say external schema, it describes the various user view. This is most of the time we can say user view schema. User may be interact with the database by using this external schema, so it describes the user view of the schema. Let us start with the third question. What is database state? When we say database, data in a database at a particular time is what we call is database state. It means that any data we store or we put in a database within a specific time or within a particular moment is what we call is database state. And also we can say database state is the snapshot. It is snapshot. We can also say database state, the other name of the database state is the snapshot. And also it is called as the current set of occurrence or instance in a database. Current occurrence or instance in a database. Every time when we insert or deleting a record or change the value of the data item in a record, we change one state of the database into another state. For example, whenever you insert the data, you inserting some data state in a database. Or whenever you delete some kinds of record or some kinds of data from a database, you deleting some database state from the database. So we can say that we can inserting or we can deleting the data from the database. Whenever we inserting or deleting the data from the database, the data within that particular time is what we call is database state. The fourth question is about what is database management system. When we say database management system, it is a computerized system that enables users to create and maintain database in a form of computerized system that enables users to create and maintain a database is what we call is database management system. The other one is it is a collection of programs that enable users to create and maintain the database. Since it is a computerized system, it allows a program that enable user to create and deleting or maintaining the data from the database. And also, this database management system is general purpose software. It is a general purpose software system that facilitates facilitating the process of defining, the process of constructing, the process of manipulating, and the process of sharing of database among various users and applications. It is a general purpose software system. When you say database management system, it is a general software management system that facilitating the process of defining and constructing, and also the process of manipulating and sharing of the database among various users and applications. It controls all the access of the database. We can access the database through database management system. So it is efficiently for providing efficient, convenient, and safe multi-user storage of and access to massive amount of persistent data. And also database management system also provides systematic method to creating and storing the database, and also provides service for controlling data access, to enforce data integrity. We may use this database management system for controlling how we are accessing the data, during we are accessing the data, and also enforce each data must fulfill some data integrity rules, and also managing concurrent control in the recovery. That means concurrently controlling the data stored in the database and recovering the data whenever data is some damage with some issues. It also helps for this purpose. It takes a link between different applications in the database. As you see from this is staff worker, and also HR need to access this employment information. To access this employment information, we first ask the database management system. Database management system allow HRMs to access this employer's data from the database through database management system. So we can say that database management system is the bridge or the linkage between the application programmer and the database. We can get the data stored in the database through database management system. So it helps user to access the database through database management interface. So we will meet in the Next